Everyone, this is Brandon with Implementation Specialists. Thank you for joining our webinar today on a couple of our key to act tools, Voidreopen and Billing Escalations. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that this webinar is being recorded, and so you will get a copy of this. So please feel free to share the recording within others in your organization as you see fit. Also, throughout the webinar, I'll be monitoring the questions pane. So if you have questions, please put those in there. We also take everyone off mute at the very end to ask your questions that way as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Deb, and she will talk more about Voidreopen and billing escalations.
Perfect, Brandon. Thank you. Like you said, we're talking about two of our biggest sellers when it comes to key to act products, Voidreopen and bill escalations. Now, let me walk you through a couple scenarios that we see happen every day for customers that are super frustrating. A customer goes to bill something out, and they found out that they missed the timeline that they could potentially bill the customer. So some of your contracts, some of your agreements that you have may require things to be billed out within X number of days from the job being completed, the call being performed, or end of month. I mean, just simple things. And if we miss those time frames, seriously, we're out of luck being able to try to collect the money. So bill escalations not only can put those back in front of people and escalate based on number of days ending. So I'm going to show you that one today. But the other one is the one I'm going to start with, Brandon, which again, one of our biggest sellers is Voidreopen. So I'm a busy CSR and I'm taking calls and I'm doing invoicing, and Brandon, don't you know, it's a common scenario. Either the materials were missed and we'd already done the billing, okay, and they posted, right, because we bill fast and we post fast. Well, I can't rebill the customer because that's our agreement. I only get to bill one time, and otherwise it's a whole big thing. So what happens is the CSR says, well, it was only $47 in materials, so I'm just going to let it go and I'm not going to bill it. I'm not going to even apply it to the call. I'm just going to let it go. So that scenario happens a ton where people know that it's more work to try to bring the whole thing up and reopen it and try to do a second billing sometimes with the customer is just not, it's not feasible. Customers don't like to get two bills for something. It's more confusing. So what happens is those things just never get billed. They get swept under the rug. And I was talking with a customer and they said to me, they said, we hardly ever do any voids. We just don't have that issue at our company. And I said, so really you never have any billing issues? You never have any parts that get missed? Or is it simply just too hard that your end users are not doing it? And it's just, well, that's how it happened and that's how it went out, so it's out. So that lost revenue, those lost costs, those lost pieces, because again, the voiding in key to act is miserable when it comes to putting up a document and the only thing you can do is do a credit memo back. Our customers want to be able to put the actual line items back on the service call invoice, and that's what Voidreopen does. So Brandon, as you invoice, if you find out, hey, it hasn't gone to the customer yet, I need to fix it, you can fix it. And you can see here on my screen, I've got a quote from one of our customers. The first time that he used it, the tool actually paid for itself, because things that used to take hours and hours for him to do now paid for itself the first time. So let's go ahead, let's go into the product. Let's start with Voidreopen and let's show you how maybe you can put some more dollars into revenue. Okay, Brandon, here we go. We're going to actually start this from scratch, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring up our quick find tool, which I know you guys are all, you guys love our quick find tool, whether I'm looking for a customer, a name, a phone number, all the things I like to search for because I have to do things fast and usually going in too many directions at one time. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up one of my favorite customers, Bob Smiley, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new call for Bob. And I'm going to show you how I can invoice all the way through and then go ahead and void it. So Brandon, I know you're watching our question log over there, so just let me know if you have anybody that needs an immediate answer. So if you see on my screen, I'm just putting in a new call here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my invoice. I'm going to save, just like you would do any other call, guys. It's going to work the same exact way. And here I'm going to go ahead and put some equipment in, and I'm just putting in some money here just so you can see it. Sorry, started on the wrong line there. And I'm going to post that one through. So I get a few items to bill from. And however you're bringing in your dollars, so Brandon, if you're doing time track, if you're doing purchase orders and payables, they're all coming in the exact way you would expect them, okay? So I'm just using my plus button here just to make them fast so you can see some of those charges come in. Okay, perfect. And post those couple right through. Now I'm also going to move this one to completed. And I'm going to mark my appointment complete too, just like if I was actually finishing up the call. Okay. I'm going to add my auto charges in just so that those can run. And remember, our auto charges are just those quick little charges that we put in. Okay, now this guy's really ready to invoice. Brandon, any questions so far?
None so far.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to print my invoice so you know, otherwise it's going to grouch at me. And it's going to take a second to print here. So Brandon, any questions in the question pane while it's printing?
Let me just check here. Nope, none so far.
Good, perfect. And guys, remember, just go ahead and type your questions into the question pane. We'll open it up for questions here at the end as well. So there's my beautiful service invoice. Okay, now back, here we go. And we're going to post. And Brandon, nice easy number for us today. 600 is our invoice number. Look at us go, huh? So I'm posting this one through, and just takes a second. Close the window, get all of my journals like I would expect. If you have these turned off, no worries, yours will still be turned off. Okay, now my service call, sorry, has actually become closed. So I'm going to save this. Okay, and now what you're going to see is if I go to my invoice quick find, I'm going to look for 600. Okay, so this is again part of quick find, just looking up that invoice because you know me and the zeros, I'm never good about finding all of the zeros. And here, if you notice, that exact invoice is right in front of me. That 600 invoice that you just all see me do, I can go ahead and use my print button from here, and I can reprint that invoice if I needed to, if the customer just needed that quick, hey, send me another copy. But I'm just verifying that you guys can all see that 600 invoice in there. Now, Brandon, let's go ahead and let's do the void, okay? So something that we used to teach people, don't void from this part because it doesn't work, doesn't follow back to key to act. What you're going to see here is I'm going to my posted transactions right here. And I'm going to bring up my Bob Smiley, my customer 105. And now I'm going to bring up my service repairs, my invoice number 600. Okay. And you know, Bob Smiley is like our favorite guy, so we use them for everything. So I got to find the right one. Right there, Brandon, you can see it. Now, guys, on yours, if you were going to go ahead and do this on yours without void reopen, it would void it in receivables. It's not going to do anything in key to act without our tool, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and use my void button here. And what you're going to see is the first part of void reopen. Do you wish to re-invoice the service call now? Yes, I want to re-invoice. I want to be able to take all those charges that I put on there and I want to be able to fix them if I need to fix them. Add more to it, I want to be able to do that. So I'm going to say yes here. Okay, here comes my first posting journal. So it's actually doing the void here. And when it's doing the void, it's going to give you a posting journal just as you would expect. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the exact perfect void just as it was put into the GL. So we've completely backed it out of the general ledger exactly as you would expect it. Okay. Full trail there as well. Now what you're seeing is here's the call back in front of me, right? So again, perfect. I don't even have to look for the call. I'm going to go ahead and go into my new button here, Here's all those charges, Brandon, that we had posted, we had put invoices in for, and now I'm returning them back right here. So if I needed to do a fix, of course I can do a fix. If I need to adjust or add, I can do that. If there was more charges coming in, they would be here now for me and I can start the process again. At the same time, here at my invoice number at the top, you're going to notice there's my new invoice, Brandon, 601, and here's my void. So again, a full trail of looking at what was actually voided out from the original invoice, 600, that we voided. Brandon, that's our void reopen product. What do you think of that?
Oh, that was great. And you actually ended up answering a question that came in that to see what the old invoice looks like.
Perfect.
So
yep. Right here on the blue arrow, you're going to see there's my new invoice, and there was the void. We do replace the SRVCE with void E, just so that way they really stand out at people, okay? And you would see them as well back in the service call, or sorry, back in the receivables inquiry window. So we are not, everything goes in and comes out just as it should in accounting with a full trail going behind it, okay?
One more question came in.
Perfect. We love questions, don't we, Brandon?
And they asked, I noticed that from the first invoice into one that came in, that the numbers are different, the totals.
Oh, good question.
It is.
Great
good
question.
eyes. So
very good. And they would be different because when this invoice comes in and is remade, the auto charges that haven't been ran. So now I'm just running those auto charges. That's why our invoice is actually different. So here I'm just running auto charges again, so then you can see it is exactly the same now. So great question. Auto charge is one of our tools as well, guys, and it runs upon completing the call status, but it also needs to be ran before I would post that. So we actually stop it from posting until those charges have been added. And you can add charges, Brandon, for, you know, whether it's a truck charge, a trip charge, a percentage, a discount, a coupon, all can happen with our auto charge product. Okay, so great questions. Now, Brandon, any more questions in the question panel, or should we move into our next product, our bill escalations?
We can move on. There was just the comment that just acknowledging makes sense after the auto charge.
Good. Okay, so guys, let's go ahead. I'm going to close out of this one and let's take a look at our bill escalations. So Brandon, this one is one of my favorite products because for me, it's always sad if we have something sitting out there and the customer didn't get an invoice, or the customer needed that invoice for month end and they just aren't, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes it's sitting out there and it has a problem. So bill escalations is a way to put things back in front of the back in front of the end users. And that can be for a customer reason or for an internal reason. You know how I am about billing. Billing happens in our office every week. Everybody knows billing goes out. That's just part of our process, right? And anything that is in the billing buckets is reviewed and is processed, right? Well, in Key to Act, you guys all know that billing is really, as a call is completed, somebody goes into the service call and tells it to invoice. It, to me, is not as automated as it needs to be because I can see where things can fall through the cracks from what we do every week here. So what we did was we came up with what was called billing escalations. And this came directly from a customer that said, hey, I need to be able to understand if something is getting to the end of the month and it has to be billed in the same month or we cannot bill it, I cannot miss these. And before, people would be running reports, okay, make sure, and they would go line by line, Brandon, on those reports, making sure they weren't missing anything. And what we did is we made bill escalations. So at the on the customer's location, what you're going to see is you have the ability to add in the escalation. So this is per customer, per location specific, okay? And we have different tools that can help put these in, but it's a super easy setup. And like I said, it can be used from the customer saying, hey, this has to be billed by X, or we aren't paying, we're not going to acknowledge the invoice, or it can be more of an internal where I'm saying everything has to be billed by X. Okay, so if you notice, and this is where Brandon usually jumps in and helps me because I'm usually backwards on these because to me it's backwards. Mm-hmm. But if you notice here, billing window, invoice must be sent by, okay, here I have two options. Number of days after the service call is completed or end of month service call is completed. So if I did the call in October, right now I'd have escalations going like crazy, Brandon, right? Because I would be seeing that I'm not going to get these billed out. But this one's my favorite, days after call is completed. For me, I want to know within 5 days or 7 days or 10 days, everything is getting completed. So what I can do is put in number of days after the service call is completed. So that way I can say for Dan gets notified based on before the end of the window. So the end of the window, Brandon, here, if I say Dan gets notified at 8 days, and then insert Dan in, and then Brandon, you're on my notification list too. You're going to get a notification at 4 days, okay? And I'm going to insert that one in as well. So what the system is going to do is it's going to send off emails saying that there's a service call that is in escalation and has not been invoiced. And it's at X number of days. So every day, Brandon, you're going to see if you have calls that haven't been invoiced, they're going to be coming into your window and you're going to see that, hey, Dan missed this one and he didn't get it done, because if he did get it done, then at 4 days, you wouldn't be getting a notification, okay? And then if you notice, we have another level. We actually have 3 levels in our escalation. Now I can actually put Brian into that 3rd level. So at 2 days, before we have the potential of not being able to invoice it, now Brian is actually getting an email as well. So you can see there's 3 levels of escalation, emails going out of the system to inform people that this call has not been invoiced and is sitting in a point where we could potentially lose revenue if we don't get the invoicing out. Mm-hmm. So Brandon, nice, easy tool, has email running behind it. I won't bore you guys with the emails happening, but if the customer location has calls that aren't in an invoice but are marked as completed, is one that starts to trigger. Mm-hmm. So guys, take a look at that one. You might be surprised on how many things you can actually speed up in your organization or make sure they're not falling through the cracks, right? Mm-hmm. Brandon, questions on that one?
Let's see. We don't have any questions that came in on bill escalations. One thing to point out too is right below where you're indicating when that user should be notified, there's actually a check mark. You can actually have, when they log into the system, a notification just saying that you have some billing escalations that you need to address.
Oh, perfect, Brandon. So sorry, I forgot completely about that Dynamics login message. So great. And the nice thing too, guys, is if the users aren't GP users, they still can get notifications. So I might have my service manager, let's say that's not in very often, he's still going to get emails that say people are needing to be invoiced. So kind of a good thing. And you set these up customer by customer. So if you have some really customers that are very busy, have tons of activity, but are very sensitive about when they get their billing, perfect one for you to set up for them. Okay. Brandon, any last questions? I think we can open it up from the field and see if anyone has any questions, since we're down to just a couple minutes remaining here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have everyone off mute. So please feel free to ask your questions.
Ask away, guys, and you can still put them into the question panel or email us at any time as well. It's a quiet bunch today, Brandon.
Yep, quiet bunch. Oh, a couple people just saying thank you. Well, you're welcome.
Yes, thanks so much, guys, for joining us today for Voidreopen and bill escalations. We hope to see you next week. I think we have a couple more webinars coming at us next week. Brandon, I know you always have a whole list of them coming at us.
Yep, absolutely.
And don't forget about our GPUC conference, November 14th through the 16th.
Yep,
definitely. If you haven't gotten signed up, still time.
Still time. So, well, perfect. We definitely appreciate everyone joining today. If you do have questions, please don't hesitate to let us know. Have a great day.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.